Is 10 a.m. November 9th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you. I know most of you had to drive on the highway, so I appreciate you being here this morning. We do have a quorum, so we can go ahead and get started. Do we have a motion to accept the staff report, or is there any amendments?
I'll make a motion, we accept staff report.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And then do we have a motion to approve or any corrections to the minutes from the October 12th meeting that we had?
I'll make a motion to approve for the October 12th minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. A review of the applications we had last month. Both of those were approved, correct, Megan? Yep.
That is correct, Madam Chair. Both the zoning map amendments that we heard out on Kelly Road got approved with
Okay.
the commissioners at our last meeting.
Perfect. So I know we're going to probably have a long meeting, everybody. So hang tight. We're just going to muddle through it as best we can. So public hearing number 1 is Corey Bernard for a conditional use accessory structure that's exceeding 100% of the GFA of the residents. And Megan, if you want to go ahead and get us started.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. The property owner of 430 Washington Street is Bridget Renteria, which is Corey Bernard's wife. And Corey Bernard is the applicant for this conditional use permit today. They live out at 430 Washington Street over in Jamestown. And the infrastructure that is present out there, of course, Rocky Mountain Power, Jamestown, Rio Vista Water and Sewer District, and access is also County Road off of Washington Street, and Green River is the fire responding agency out there. We'll go ahead and jump to the zoning map, just so you guys can better see if everybody knows where the old Texas travel camp used to be, now known as Green River RV Camp. It's just a little bit down the hill from there. It's the only R2 property on this street. And the reason why we're here today is because Corey Bernard is requesting to build a attached garage to his home. And the proposed garage would be roughly 70 by 80 feet, totaling 5,600 square feet, and would reach a maximum of 35 feet, which is the max you can have height-wise in R2 zone district. With this exceeding his primary residence being only 3,600 square feet. The reason we're here is per Sweetwater County zoning regulation, section 5C4, in order to build the proposed garage, it must be approved through a conditional use hearing. And that's what we're here for today. A little bit of background, just want to talk about conversations that I've had both with Corey and with Bridget on what they are proposing to do with the garage, what it's looking like and everything. The exterior of the garage, it won't just be a big metal shop. They're proposing to stucco the side of it and also make it blend in with their home. They're proposing to kind of just make it look like one unit. They want to build the garage so that they can house their motorhome, their boats, other construction equipment and other things that are on their property site as well. This was, and we'll go a little bit more into site pictures that were taken also when visiting the site as well. And I do want to just let everybody know that Corey is working with our Sweetwater County Attorney John De Leon on resolving an encroachment issue of his retaining wall into Washington Street in the effort of just disclosing all the information that's going on with the public hearings process that we need to do as planners. Here's the site plan that was turned in by Corey. As you can tell, it is seated right up against the house and shows where it's located on the property. There is retaining walls that are on site. It's actually a pretty unique site in which you're driving by. It's kind of tucked back. You've got trees on the front and you've got trees on the south side of it, and then a big retaining wall that goes around the entire east and north side of the property. And he also turned in just a brief floor plan showing where the garage doors are going to be, have walk-in doors on either side and a workbench in it. Also, during my site visit with Jim Zimmerman last week, we were informed that there's going to be windows placed on the the west side, which will be facing Washington Street, in the effort to make it not look like a big old workshop, have it more blend in with the house. As you can see before you here, these are the site photos that Mr. Zimmerman took when he was posting public notice out on the property. You can see that the RV campground is just to the west of this property. And it is coming down the hill as you enter, as you come down Washington Street, heading south towards the river. We've also chosen to take just a few more pictures just to try and depict as best as we can what the site looks like. You can see there's connect boxes out on the site, and in the two pictures on the bottom right, tucked up near the retaining wall, there is actually all the building materials that they have purchased for this garage. They are currently sitting out on site as well. We were also informed of that last week. And we'll jump right into the 9 criteria that we needed to go through for this conditional use. The first criteria is this request consistent with a comprehensive plan? And we deem that it is, because it's encouraging orderly growth and development in locations that contribute to economic and social well-being of county residents. I've combined criteria number 2 and 3 just for the simple fact it was easier to cover them both together than trying to separate things out. As we've discussed before, this proposed garage is nearly 2,000 square feet larger than what their primary residence is currently, and is going to be roughly 35 feet tall, which is also the max for an R2 zoned property. Even though the property sits much lower than properties to the north and east of this property, the proposed garage is still extremely large and uncharacteristic for the area. There's not any other large buildings this size on other R2 or CRS zone properties in this little block area. Although on other CRS zone properties, you could potentially have large commercial structures that need to be taken into consideration with this permit. And we have also received one comment form that is actually from the neighbor to the south, Mr. Jasperson, that has spoken against having this conditional use approved. The property is adjacent to R2 and CRS zone properties, most of which on the street are other CRS zone properties. And I want everybody to keep that in mind. Others R2 zone properties have the opportunity to go through the same process. It's the way that our department tries to make things equal and equitable for everybody owning property within the county. And the request would be compatible with existing and allowable adjacent properties if approved by going through this conditional hearing process. Criteria number 4. Does a property have adequate facilities required for this residential property? And we believe that it does. Criteria number 5 talks about the maintenance and use of these associated structures. Mr. Bernard will have to get an approved construction permit if this conditional use is approved. We do have one submitted on record with our office. If this conditional use is approved, he will just need to come in and pay for that. And we can get both permits to him if approved as well. And once construction is complete, our code enforcement specialist, Mr. Jim Zimmerman, would need to go out and inspect the garage after the construction is complete as well. And criteria number 6, staff does not foresee any adverse effects on the natural environment. Criteria number 7, will not create undue traffic congestion. As long as the garage is used for residential purposes only, staff does not see that this request will increase traffic to the area or have any congestion, undue traffic congestion to the area as well. Criteria number 8 will not adversely affect public health, safety, or welfare, and staff does not foresee any problems with these 3 areas. And criteria number 9, does it conform with the Sweetwater County zoning resolution? And the request does meet this zoning resolution for the simple fact that he is going through the conditional use process in which he needs to go through by trying to obtain a permit that's larger, 100% larger than the gross floor area of his primary residence. When we put this out for public and agency comment, we received 2 comments back. The first being from Colorado Interstate Gas Company. They have no facilities in the area, so they do not have any concerns with this. And the second comment we received, as I spoke before, came from Kel and Yvonne Jasperson, the property owner to the south. I am opposed to building a building of this size on this property. In my opinion, it will alter the property use from that of R2 to something different, as the proposed structure will dwarf the existing residents and possibly affect other R2 zone properties in the neighborhood in a negative way, making them less desirable. I would support the building of a smaller structure that would complement the existing structure and be in compliance with the R2 zone. And staff request that we give a recommendation at the end of the comment period and board discussion. I would like Madam Chair to know that both Corey and his wife, Bridget, are here in attendance with us as well. That's all I have right now.
Thank you, Megan. Would you guys like to come up and add anything to Megan's presentation and introduce yourselves? And I'm Bridget. This is my husband, Corey. So I'm a little surprised on Kale's response due to the fact that we actually spoke with him
Said he was gonna call.
last Wednesday and kind of described what the building was going to be. And he physically told us over the phone that he was going to contact and retract his statement. So I'm actually confused, unless he was lying to us specifically, but we did talk to him and Sue over the phone because they're in Mesquite at their summer home. We don't want any issues with the neighborhood. I would tell you, in general, I want my house to look nice. I understand that it's a large building. My husband's a little extravagant, and we have a lot of stuff and I want it put away. I'm over the mess. I'm over the Connex boxes. I'm over the tractor outside. I guess I'm a little bit more bougie than him. So I want everything put away. I want it cleaned. I want it kept up. I personally don't think it's going to change the look of the neighborhood. The way that, no offense, but the Jaspersons are the ones that originally built the house in the first place. Was it an aunt or an uncle or a sister or brother? So they're the ones that originally built that house. That house is built toward the front of the house. You can't even see it unless you're coming up from the river. So quite frankly, all you see is the back of the house when you pull up or go down anyways. And so the only way you're going to see the front of the house, and the only way you do see the front of the house, is if you're actually coming up from the river to where you can actually see even our front porch or our front door. So I really don't see an issue in having a garage at the back of it. The only difference is that right now we don't have a garage and we have just this little tiny, it looks just like the square piece of the back of 2 bedrooms. And I cannot tell you how many people come to our house and say, oh, this your house is so much bigger from the inside than it looks from the outside. And to me, that is because of the way that they built the structure and how they positioned it. Maybe this would be a different scenario if it was the front of the house was positioned and we're going to have this great big garage showing up from the back, but that's not our case. I don't think we have an option in this case. That's our option. That's where everything is. That's the way that they built the house. And I think it complements our house in my eyes. Like I said, we have our pool house that's right next to it. We'll eventually have a little barbecue area that's back there. Kel Jasperson has over 3 different buildings on his property, and all of which probably total the size of the one that we're building.
And his response when we were talking, he basically said,
Can I interrupt you for a
Yeah.
second? As far as that subject goes, Eric's just informed me that he's gonna get up and talk about that here. in a
oh,
minute.
okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna just add, when I was designing and building this, getting ready to build this garage, I pushed the garage all the way back away from the property line as far as I could. So it wouldn't be this big tall wall right next to Washington Street. And like I informed Megan and Jen, Bridget and I both agreed, which isn't much. But to rock the bottom of the concrete wall, part of the foundation, and then continue around the bottom of the house, tear that brick off so it all matches. And then we're gonna stucco the garage in the house. We move that back, and I wanted to put some windows on that tall wall, just kind of make it blend with the house so it doesn't look like this huge tall wall. And like it'll leave, like all that, them Connex boxes they're out of there as soon as the garage is built. And what else did you touch on? And like I said, Eric's gonna get up and talk about Mr. Jasperson's letter to the county. I think that's about it, really.
Yeah, the way I took it when I talked to Kel is just that he didn't want this eyesore of a building that was gonna take away from the value of apparently his son's house that they're gonna be building there in not too long. And I would never do that because at one point I want to resell my house as well. So I'm not going to put something on our property that's going to take away from the resale value. And that's just my eyesight on it all.
Eric,
Yeah. Let me help out a little bit. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the reason why the comment wasn't removed, because I never got a clear indication from Kale to do a withdrawal. So, okay, so I did speak with Mr. Jasperson yesterday. He's in Mesquite, so that's why he's not here today. So I think there's a few good points before we even get there that I want to point out. Megan, if you could pull the map up of the CRS zoning that's surrounding the property also, which I believe is another factor to take into account here when we were looking at it. And the other thing was when I spoke with Mr. Jasperson, he felt that he thought the size of the structure was going to be larger than it was. He thought it was going to be around 10,000 square feet, which it's not going to be. They are correct. With the way the property sits, and we'll show you some photos with the height of the structure and the retaining wall that'll be behind it, and then placing it kind of towards I would say the rear of the property will help screen that building. But as you can see right there, they are actually on a parcel. They're not on a subdivision lot. So that's why it's a little bit larger than some of the subdivision lots that are in Jamestown. As you know, the lots in Jamestown are small, and that's why you'll see actually ownerships with multiple lots so that they can actually use them, just because it was platted a long time ago, back in the 20s, maybe even before that. So if you look at that CRS, and the reason why I'm bringing CRS zoning up is because of some of the uses you can have in CRS zoning. Now, that is a campground, RV campground that's located adjacent to it. That's the Texas Travel Camp right there. But in there, and the types of uses you can have a hotel in a CRS zoning. So from the size structure and the potential should be also taken into account here. As you can see, it's surrounded by CRS zoning. When I spoke with Mr. Jasperson yesterday, he was a lot more favorable to the structure going in. So I think I'll work with him this week, so maybe we can get that straightened out before the Board of County Commissioner meeting as far as the comment goes. His biggest concern would be all the storage, which it sounds like you want all the storage, you want all the stuff inside. So one of his things was he would like the Connex units removed once the building is constructed and inspected, that those are removed. And then I believe you're planning on stuccoing the building so it'll match well in there. And those are really the two conditions that he would like to see on there, which I think is what the plan is anyway. But I do want to bring that to light. That staff has a favorable recommendation with this, just based on the conversation I personally had with Mr. Jasperson. That was my biggest concern was, okay, we're approving something where the adjacent property owner is not okay with it. But now that I've spoken with him, the size of the structure is smaller, and what their plans are with the structure, it's more favorable. So that's all I have, Madam Chair. I hope that clears things up.
Thank you, Eric. All right, we'll go ahead and let's open it up for public comment. Or John, did you want to say anything?
So I guess I did want to clarify if, in terms of potential conditions, if there was, input in terms of a condition, related to the retaining wall. I think, and again, my comments are legal in nature, not substantive. And so that's why I would ask either Eric or Jean to address the substantive component. Essentially, as was alluded to, and I believe the Bernards, the same way their intent or their plan corresponds to the requests that Mr. Jasperson is making. I think that their plans correspond to establishing an easement. There's a retaining wall on the property that went into county property. And there have been discussions to resolve that encroachment because legally, if there is an outstanding issue, then you cannot move forward with another permit while that other issue is outstanding. So that issue is being addressed, discussed simultaneous to this issue, and will potentially be resolved in the same time frame. So a condition, again, Eric can kind of expound on the details to clarify that, but a condition that may be desired would be that the encroachment issue be resolved either through an easement, which is what is being discussed, or another manner that is acceptable to the county. So Eric, I'll go ahead and pass that information on to you or Jean to elaborate on.
I'm probably gonna have to have Gene come up and discuss the easement issue, just because he's been dealing with it more than I have. That was not the conditions I was placing on it, because I felt it was a civil issue separate. But if that's what the county chooses to do, we can do that.
Sorry, I didn't know I was going to be speaking. Anyway, just kind of give you background.
Glad you're here.
No, you're not,
We
but
are.
thank you. So this issue has been going on since April of 2018. As you know, our department is, and planning and zoning and code enforcement is complaint driven. We received a complaint that there was a retaining wall that was built within the county right away. The ditch was bladed, and I had to go out and investigate it. Well, we found out that Corey had placed a block retaining wall between 9 and 7 feet, in 9 feet on one end, 7 some feet on the other end after we got it surveyed, into our county road right away. Through several discussions over the last 3 years, we've kind of came to, or John and Corey have kind of came to an agreement on an easement for 20 years or something like that. They're still working through all the details on this. Several times Corey has promised to either remove the wall, move the wall back, do different things like that. We just need it resolved. I mean, this has been going on long enough. So when I talked to John, that's where the kind of the condition came up is, we can't really force anybody to do anything until they want to do something. And this is a condition that we can put on there to make sure that this is cleared up and this is cleared up and everybody's happy. It's one of those things, existing property corners we're in, it got built over 9 feet. There's other walls that are out there that we just deal with on an individual basis and we go forward. But like I said, this has been going on since 2018. And we just need a resolution to it. So any questions? I'm up for those. Yes, sir.
When did the wall go in?
I don't know. We got our first complaint 2018.
But I mean, was it there for
No.
20 years? Okay, so it is a new, about 10 years, so it's,
So Gene, you're talking about the upper concrete wall?
No, I'm talking about the lower one on Washington Street that's in the very front of the property.
Oh, okay. So this has nothing to do about the.
No.
Okay,
No, it has nothing to do with the structure or where they're building or anything like that. It's just an encroachment into our right of way.
okay.
Yeah, it's not a port wall.
It's out of those
it's
concrete.
concrete like they used to do it.
Yeah. I've seen a
forgot
picture
to
of them
do
in here also.
Arrowhead.
Yeah.
Arrowhead blocks.
Arrowhead blocks,
Yes,
yep.
yeah.
So you're willing to, I've worked with the county on some issues kind of like this. Gene's really easy to work with. I agree, you know, sometimes you scratch my back, I scratch your back, but in this case, the county has no other recourse. If you don't do this, you know, it's up to you. It's not up to the county.
So like you said, that they're big Lego blocks.
Yeah.
And it's been, me and Jamie going back and forth on it for a while. So the reason I put that in there was there was nothing there along Washington Street, and then there's a lawn, and then there was just a dirt slope full of weeds and was sloughing off. So I just threw them in there. Yeah, and county property. We're talking about the easement with John here. My plan, what I want to do is when I get all this other projects done, I want to move that back to the property line. I mean, it can pick a day, you can take it down. They suggested, well, Corey, why don't you just move it back? I said, well, I don't like those blocks. They just don't look finished to me. So I want to do something else with it if I'm gonna do a permanent wall. And I've been kicking a few ideas around on that. This easement will curb that problem for now. Was it 20 years? I don't think I'll be around in 20 years, so I'm hoping to get that done by then, so. But yeah, I've been working with Gene on that for a while. And
My understanding, we have the documentation drawn up, our lawyer.
yeah, it's down the
Our
street.
lawyer emailed it to us yesterday, and I think all we have to do is go in and sign it. And it was what, I'm gonna say, was it you, John, and him, our lawyer discussed? Our lawyer talked to somebody here and discussed it and came up with stuff. So we actually have a contract drawn up that we have to do is go in and sign.
As far as an easement, John, is that what?
So again, on the legal side of it, Madam Chair and Commissioners, board, so the issue is that you can't move forward with one permit
There's not.
while something's outstanding. And so the effort, of course, as is being alluded to, is to try to get that moving as quickly as possible, the easement. So that this doesn't move forward, and then all incentive to finish up that other process, which, as Gene identified, has been a multi-year process. So it's just ensuring that the good faith from the land use department to try to move as quickly as possible on this particular request, this conditional use request, isn't in vain and done, again, in good faith. And then that other issue gets left behind. We continue to debate nuances, et cetera. I think that the representations are fair by Ms. Bernard in terms of it is right around the corner. It's moving simultaneously and is, but again, the board has to make final decisions on that. And so working with me is just working on the procedural stuff. Again, it'll be between the board. Gene, of course, can provide recommendations, but ultimately it will be between the board and the Bernards. And so there could be the unforeseen circumstance where there are more nuances that need to be worked out with the board, in which case you wouldn't necessarily, again, that's your choice. That's an option you have. And I think the Bernards sound amenable to it as having a condition that issue be resolved, and upon resolution of that issue, that this permit be either granted or not granted. So that, those are the legal issues involved there.
I have a question for you, Gene. So in the last 8-10 years, has it been an issue of the wall with the county? So why would the easement only be 20 years? Why would it not be a perpetual easement? Why, I guess I don't understand the time limit if we've not had issues.
I guess from my standpoint is, I'll kind of go through the history. We sent out a certified letter, did all that. Corey responded right away, got the ditch graded back, that was flat bladed. So we got the water away from going across the road into other people's property. And then we talked about, hey, what's going to happen with the wall? And he goes, I'm going to take the wall down. I'm going to move it back to the property line. Okay, great. Came in that winter and said, hey, can I have an extra year extension? Sure. Can I have an extra year extension? Sure. It's both property corners, to be honest with you, are in. They've been in forever. It hasn't caused a problem, but as soon as we're knowing of the fact that it's in our right of way, we got to do something.
Fair enough.
We have a really large right of way on Washington Street. It's a nice wall. I just would need it resolved. I need it either moved back or we need an
Or
easement
an
or we need
easement.
something. We just need it resolved because it's been going on. And the hard part about it is when somebody makes a complaint
Mhm.
and then they complain again and you don't have an answer for them. And trust me, then they start calling everybody.
So,
Yeah,
so
fair
Gene,
enough.
I have a question for you. So what is your recommendation? What would you like to see proceed? Time-wise, would you want the wall moved before he started construction or could they do it in conjunction? What would your
I
recommendation
don't
be?
care either way. The easement's a temporary stopgap. I mean, the right solution is to move it back on the property line. I mean, that's obviously the thing, because the hard part for me is I'm setting a precedence now. Somebody encroaches on ours and they're going to go, well, you gave them an easement. Why can't you give me an easement?
Yeah.
Come on. So it's one of those things. I mean, the right solution is to move it back to the property line, but I understand money constraints and time constraints. And I don't want to hold anything up. And I think everybody's hopefully progressing in a good faith effort and we can get them both done simultaneously. The problem is the past 3 years, I've just been met with extension after extension after extension. So I think when we get this easement or something else, when the board decides, we can finally put everything to rest.
Could you monitor it in a
Sure.
way that, okay, you've started construction, your good faith said when you started construction on this building, you also was going to start, demolishing this wall. Could we do that? Or I don't.
It would be up to these guys to put any condition on there and then the board to officially accept it.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna point out one thing. The property line between Jasperson and him, we actually had to shorten the easement up. We originally were just gonna do an easement all the way down the whole entire front property. We had to shorten that 20 foot because there's a fire hydrant right there on the property line. And Jamestown Rio Vista wants access to that fire hydrant all the time. So we had to shorten that easement up 20 feet. So it's not along the whole property line. So when he does the wall, there's gonna have to be something done at that southerly boundary line of his to bring it back on or do something around to cut everything around the fire hydrant. Like I said, I'm up to whatever. I'm, just here to provide facts. You guys decide and then the board decides, but I just need to put, something to bed. Really.
So it's a wall on this second page, Megan. The additional
Yeah, it's
site
probably
photos.
2.5 blocks tall.
Yeah, it's a nice looking wall.
Yeah, it's a block based wall,
Yeah. Yeah, we all get complaints, trust me.
So anyway, do you have any more questions or think anymore?
Does anybody else have any questions for Gene?
I think if the condition is set on there and it's met, it does both sides of that. That'll be probably the place to put it. To make sure it gets done into the legally, so we're not moving forward with something other than and this one still being there, so.
Yeah. The hard part for me is, like John said, we're kind of in an advice giving role. Because the board, I can't say, yeah, that's a great idea, let's do it. I can't sign off on the easement. The board has to do it, and I don't know what their thoughts are until we present it to them.
Well, I just want to say, I know the cost of the association with the building and everything else and moving the block wall. But I also know that sometimes you take somebody by their word and they don't do it. And then you're basically left holding the bag. And I don't want the county to be left holding the bag on.
No.
Want to make sure that wall gets moved, because I like the idea of the building. I think the building would be great for over there. I agree with the building 100%, but you also have to have that trust to get that wall moved. And I guess it's a fine line, John, that you maybe, you know, you're gonna have to deal with too.
Well, I think for me, if the wall's moved, then there's no easement, there's no decision by the board or anything like that.
But if you start
not-
building the building and the wall doesn't get moved and
Right.
the building's
Buildings
built,
up.
yeah, then you have no recourse.
Did you want to add something, John?
Yeah, Madam Chair. So the option, again, in that, just listening to that discussion for a condition could be to resolve either through an easement or removing the wall, getting the wall in the proper place. So you could have an or in that condition if you so choose.
Prior to the construction
Of the bill.
of the building. Thank you, Jean. All right, we'll go ahead. Let's open it up for public comment. If there's anybody in the public that would like to talk on behalf of this public hearing number 1. Is there anybody that would like to talk against or in opposition of the application? Anybody that would like to say anything in general? Any last comments from anyone in the public? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and close the public comment. And we'll open it back up to the board. If you have any questions for John, Eric, Bernard, Jean.
So I think we're looking at possibly 3 different conditions.
I know, I'm trying to.
Yes.
think about easements or removing the wall prior to construction being one, yes.
And then I think there was on the stucco, making sure that that was, the exterior was part of the process due to the complaint.
Yeah. Yep. So the stucco, which I think that was one condition, the storage containers, I mean, they don't have to be, they can go in the building.
Right.
As long, I mean, if you guys are okay with that.
Before the buildings?
No. After it's the construction of it.
Oh, yeah, they're out of there.
Okay. So I think we're good there in those 2 conditions, that this, I would say after the building is built, so they can take the material out of there into the building. So, then this 3rd condition, we have to kind of talk out a little bit, John, because, I guess, does he want the Planning and Zoning Commission giving a recommendation of whether it should be an easement or not? Or, because I believe that's in the purview of the commissioners. But I guess the issue needs to be resolved, whether it's an easement or the easement's not approved by the Board of County Commissioners. And with that not approved, then that wall is going to have to be moved, and then that's going to have to be a time frame. So I guess there's a lot of factors there that we got to consider there.
So again, that's what the or would satisfy, is giving variability to that issue. And I think again, Madam Chair, you may consider, I believe Mr. Bernard, Mrs. Bernard are amenable to that condition as with the other conditions, and they can certainly speak to that if they are in fact amenable to that condition. If they are not, then they can say so to the or.
Because we have paperwork literally drawn up, so I'm like, I need to know if we need to take down the wall or if we need to go to the lawyer and sign the paperwork for the easements, as is, I guess, my thing. I just need to know which way we need to go. Because I literally have it sitting in my email, so I'm like, okay, do we go to the lawyer's office and sign the easement paperwork that he called and discussed and talk to somebody about here, or do we remove the wall?
And if you, as a board, choose to include that or, then the easement would be sufficient by your recommendation. So it would not require them to remove that. Again, understanding that if the commissioners do not accept that easement, then it goes to the other side of the or. And
But-
that they would
But
have.
didn't Gene say he did not want to give an easement? He does, because then that would just be, you know, an out for other people. Am I correct?
I don't, but that's not my decision, or decision. However, I don't want you guys to say remove the wall.
I want you guys to say, move the wall or do the easement. I don't want the wall removed.
Right, because then you're gonna have a mess.
Hey,
Yeah.
John. Do we have to get into a specific of tell them what to do? Because this is more in your game, the legalities. If we just say the encroachment issue has to be resolved prior to issuing of a building permit, I mean, whatever way through the legal or however through the county, that has to be resolved before it's built.
I think that's another way,
It's
that
like,
is,
we're not telling them how to resolve it.
Right.
We just say it has to be resolved prior to.
Madam Chair, I think that is an acceptable
Okay.
alternative. The piece that you may consider is again clarifying with the Bernards that they are in fact in agreement with that condition, which I think I'm hearing them say yes, but it sounds a little bit, it's almost a little bit of a hedged response.
Mhm.
But I think the intent is that they agree with that condition and that you may make that clarification. So that's just clear for the record rather than a hedged response.
We have to do.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Kelly.
You know, that way.
Yeah, no. I like
Yeah.
that. The only other question I have is, because it is R2, the surrounding is CRS, would we put those same requirements as far as the stucco and removing the containers if it was in a CRS? I guess I feel like we're not that they're not agreeing to do that and they want their property nice, and I understand that. But would we put that same criteria if it was in a CRS just because of a neighbor complaint?
Probably not, because it'd be commercial zoning. And so that would be a commercial or industrial building. And then the residents would actually become accessory and we wouldn't be here today. So.
I guess
it's-
that's I just can't wrap my head around it because I'm just
It's-
like,
So.
we're catering to one
I mean,
complaint and I don't necessarily like that.
But yeah, we wouldn't be here because then you can have a building that's larger than your home because it's a commercial right.
Okay.
So.
Okay,
And even that in an R2, can he have a oversized garage and a shipping container in the back? You know, if that was out north of town,
If it was permitted,
you know.
this was not permitted.
The shipping containers, you know, are just portable.
Well, it depends on the oversized structure. It depends on the zoning. So if it's rural residential, then you can have up to 200% of the size of your
Right.
home. And that's usually on larger parcels and such. So
Mhm.
yeah, there's up north of, and we've had conditional uses here before you, north of Rock Springs, that have had these accessory
Yes.
structures larger than the residences, but they're on large parcels. There's not a lot around them. It fits in well. So those have not been, there's been no controversy with
No.
any of those.
If he had two garages that were
Yeah, I know where you're going.
100%, now he's more than what's in this one garage. I mean, you
And
know,
yeah, because we don't do aggregates. So it's not an aggregate amount of accessory use like the city of Rock Springs does, where they, here's your residence, 3,000 square foot, and you can't have over 3,000 square feet of accessory buildings, so, but we don't have that in the county because we have larger parcels. And so a little bit more freedom there. So,
right,
Yeah.
so I'm just, you know me, I don't want to get into saying you have to do this, and I don't agree with telling somebody how they have to decorate or finish their house or.
well, and that
something
was,
like
I
It just
guess,
needs to
my
be
point.
finished to a
Uh-huh.
nice, that's me,
The-
know.
again, let's remember, property rights go both ways.
Mhm. I
Okay.
don't.
And so this is an adjacent property owner
Yeah.
that is changing his opinion of the structure based on that. So
Right.
I'm just pointing that out, however you want to do it, Madam Chair.
That was just my question, because
Yeah.
I'm just like,
Good question.
all right, we've had lots of discussion. We have several different ways to go about making a motion to accept or not accept this. So I am opening it up to you guys to see if anybody would like to make a motion with some conditions on public hearing number 1 for the conditional use accessory structure.
I'll jump in here.
This is a
You know,
complicated one.
It's
It
a
is. I had a
complicated
feeling it
one.
was gonna be, I just knew the
We'll-
whole day
we'll sit here
today.
and make sure I word this rightly as we go, staffs, so you have, what are staff's conditions right now? I mean, usually I have these written in front of me and I can edit through them, but
No, you guys are
Don't have
okay.
any staff.
we don't have
No.
any staff.
No.
This is the reason why we didn't put any conditions. or anything.
Right.
We wanted to get everybody's input because again, you
Yeah.
guys are the recommendation board. What our job is to do is just to present the facts and
Mhm.
then things moving forward. Excuse me. So I think we've all come to agreeance is we want to have 3 conditions to this
Right.
conditional use permit. And the first condition I would propose is that Connect boxes are to be removed from the property once garage has been constructed.
Hmm.
The second condition, exterior of the garage is to be finished, whether it's stucco, decorative rock. I think that's something that we can leave up to the Bernards. It's definitely going to depend, as long as it's finished, I think we'll be okay, not just a big, large metal building. And then I am going to defer to John on the wording of the
So will
easement
we.
for that third
But,
third condition.
I like my wording.
I do.
I think your wording is
Is good on that
appropriate to
one.
consider.
Okey dokey. I'll step in on this. I'll make a motion. We approve this conditional use permit on the conditions that the encroachment issue is resolved prior to the issuing of the building permits were prior to moving forward with construction. Is that proper on that? And then the condition of the Connex box is removed and the condition that the exterior of the garage needs to be finished, not just a metal building standing there. It needs to be finished in a manner that fits within the, area.
Right there. So when I bought the building, I had choices and I talked to the stucco guy. So we were-
if you, no, I'd rather not have metal panels. Okay, so it has to be finished. Yeah, so you're gonna have a
Yeah.
professional finish.
Yeah.
So the exterior needs to be finished properly, not just a big metal building standing out in the middle of the thing. And you got the stucco, that's your idea. So if you want me to tell you, finish it in a stucco manner?
You want to? But-
I like what you were saying.
I don't want to tell you how to do it. It just needs to be done in a way, in a finished way that enhances, not detracts. Okay. Okay, and then anything else? Am I missing anything?
I think we have it, or
Some clarification on the construction. I was a little confused on that one, just because we have 2 processes here.
Yep.
So we have the issuance of the permit. So once this is approved, I believe you've submitted a construction permit. If not, it's an easy process. So can staff issue the permit, but the construction of the building can't start until they've,
It
Solve the
really,
issue?
Solve the easement.
I guess
issue
that's
of the
just so
moving.
staff knows that we're not issuing, or are you talking about issuing the
Okay,
permit?
We'll say, that makes it easy. Do not issue the permit
Okay.
until the easement or the encroachment issue has been resolved. Whatever way that is resolved. Okay, do we got all the? We got it
I am
documented
just,
properly
I
through
was
my,
just gonna say, do we have it documented?
through my ranting.
I think so. If you guys would like me to go over them,
Yes,
one
please.
by
Yes,
one,
please.
I think we can do that.
Yes.
So I think the first condition we have is encroachment issue is to be resolved prior to approving the construction permit for the garage. Criteria number 2, Connex boxes to be removed from the property once garage has been constructed. And criteria number 3, exterior of the garage is to be finished.
We have a first. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Do we have any final further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor with the conditions that Megan has read for public hearing number 1 for the conditional use accessory structural permit, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion does carry. So with those conditions, it will go to the county commissioners on the 15th. So you guys will need to be there at 8:30. Absolutely.
2.5.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know if you guys want to take a 5-minute break, anything, or just move.
That would be great if we
I
could.
think we ought to, if we
Yeah.
can, just take a quick break before, because I have a feeling we're going to be here for a little on the next one.
Okay, yeah, it'd be great. Thank you.
Okay. It is 10:50. We'll be back here 10:55.
Camera wouldn't let him look at you, John.
For sure.
Okay, saw that once.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I knew that was. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, on public hearing number 2, Rose Rock Holdings LLC, the Love's Travel Stop and Country Stores. It's for an amended conditional use permit for a wastewater system. All right, Eric.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to point out too, since we're in a hybrid meeting, that online we have Jason Thomas with WDEQ.
Okay, thank you.
And so any questions regarding the actual permit itself, he is on the line. We have Sarah Jeffries also on with Sweetwater County Environmental Health. Amelia Jordan, she's the engineer on this project.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to point that out, who was online. I'm not sure. Oh, and Darren Kaufman with YDOT is also on.
I
I'm
think
not sure who Scott is, but I'm assuming probably with Loves. So
Scott's
okay.
with Loves. Okay.
I think so. Okay,
Okay.
and we have Kim Van Dyke, who will be answering on behalf of Love's Truck Stop in the audience.
Thank you.
Property owner is Rose Rock Holdings. Applicant is the same. It's the Love's Truck Stop, as we all know. It's an existing site. It's 18.36 acres of land. Its address is 8901 Highway 374. Site is approximately 4,000 feet from the Jamestown Rio Vista residential subdivision. It's commercially zoned. It has been combined. It was 2 parcels. It is 1 parcel now. They did resolve that issue. Infrastructure, Green River Fire, Jamestown Rio Vista Water and Sewer District. It's the Rocky Mountain Power. And as far as sewage goes, it's on an existing septic system that has failed. And so that's why we are hearing a proposed private sewer treatment facility. And then Dominion Gas offers gas service out there. As you can see, the zoning is commercial. It is adjacent to commercial zoning. We're amending the conditional use permit. So you're going to see conditions that were on the previous conditional use permit being also put into this one. Just so you know, they're definitely modified because it is an existing site now. The southern property, it does show rural residential zoning, but we did go through a zone map amendment for commercial zoning along that highway. 374. And as you can see, there is aerial photography. It shows you actually when it was being constructed. So you can see all the dirt work that was being done. To the north of the interstate is the golf course and then commercial properties to the east. So Love's is proposing to amend their existing conditional use permit to change from an underground injection sewage disposal system to a sanitary sewage treatment facility. Will be treated with an activated sludge waste water treatment system, and the treated effluent will be sent to the Green River. The existing conditional use is for a travel stop facility. It's existing, which includes a convenience store, automotive pumps, truck fuel pumps, fast food restaurant, and tire shop. The auto and truck fuel pumps are under separate canopies adjacent to the convenience store, fast food restaurant. The tire shop facility is a separate structure, as you see when you drive by, adjacent to the truck fuel canopy. And the applicant has received approval on construction of the facility and has stated the facility will meet effluent requirements. Permits are in place. And you can see there's there's several permits involved with this type of use. There's the WPDES, which is the actual discharge into the Green River, the effluent, and the actual permit for the facility itself. As you can see on the site plan here, so this is a north is up, so you can see the structures of the convenience store and the tire facility, and then to the furthest on the southeast corner there is where this sewage treatment package plant's going to be. Nope. And there's an actual blown up drawing of the system. And then you can see here, proper notification was given, photos, and you've got photos to the north, east, west, and south. And to the south is undeveloped right now. So just like we did previously, we have criteria for conditional use permits. And this is, our biggest one is the comprehensive plan. Do we encourage growth to continue in an orderly manner in locations that contribute to economic and social well-being of county residents? The site provides local jobs, truck vehicle stop for travelers on Interstate 80, and food and motor vehicle fueling services, which includes truck service and maintenance. In addition, the site provides additional space for semi-tractor trailers to park in Sweetwater County when Interstate 80 has closures. Now let's talk about adversely affecting adjacent property owners. The reason for the amendment is due to the failure of the existing system as explained previously. And they're requesting to change to a private sewage treatment facility that will discharge the effluent into the Green River. If the conditional use is permitted, every measure should be taken to assure that proper routine monitoring is in place to protect the residents' drinking water. The Joint Powers Water Board is recommending more frequent sampling than the monthly as required by DEQ. So you go back to the map. There's the facility. And then I believe they're in the process, or I mean, Darren is online, can speak more to it. The permits for YDOT, because it is a highway to the south of the property. They will also have to receive permits from the county, because you can see we actually have some county roads that they would have to cross, the pipeline would have to cross in order to discharge into the Green River. And you can definitely see what the concern of the Joint Powers Water Board is, as I am concerned. That's our drinking water. That's Green River. The water treatment facility is downstream from where this will discharge. And so that you can see why there are big concerns, and we'll go over those comments. Is it compatible with existing allowable uses? And we're talking about the truck stop and you know, that was approved previously through hearings a few years ago. It's an existing site. Properties to the south are zone commercial, to the west is agriculture, and it's owned by the Bureau of Land Management and is undeveloped. So the request can demonstrate adequate facilities, and we're going to have, and also to discuss a little bit about the maintenance here. The existing septic system has failed, and currently the owner is having to pump and truck the sewage from the facility to the City of Green River sewage system. The applicant is proposing this facility will discharge effluent to the Green, which will be upstream from the Joint Powers Water Board treatment facility. And as previously I've stated, they've received all of their permits from DEQ and also the Army Corps of Engineers. The request has minimized to the greatest degree possible adverse effects on the natural environment. Staff suggests the best long-term solution for this area is public sewer. As we know from last night, which we didn't know when we wrote the staff report, we have a special purpose tax that was approved. Part of the special purpose tax is a sewer line. And I think that has to weigh heavily on today's decision. What do we want out there? Our best option for economic growth right now is west of Green River, and a sewage line would provide great opportunities for that. Staff recommends if the Planning and Zoning Commission does approve this today, that a time frame be placed on that so that the Jamestown Rio Vista pursue public sewer options. So again, that was written before what we know now is that $9 million was approved for a sewage line out there. So as far as traffic congestion, this won't affect what's currently out there. They made a lot of improvements as if you drive out there, YDOT. There are some things that Darren has brought up to me that were not completed as far as lighting and electrical go, that Love's needs to complete punch list. And that's why those conditions are included in the conditions. One concern, so let's talk about adversely affecting public health, safety, and welfare. So certification of operators. You need to be a certified operator when you're in a public water and sewer systems, and there's different classifications for that. This is a private system. So when you pull up the definitions according to Wyoming statute for those certifications, you don't have to be a certified operator to operate a private system. So we can't require that. I know those are some comments that have been come in, and it would be good. Staff would be completely for a certified operator. We prefer a certified operator out there, but you can't do it when the definition says on a public water system or sewer system. So that's where we're at with that. And I think that's some of the concerns I've heard is monitoring, because again, the monitoring of it, if you look at the permit, is monthly, and then the reporting is quarterly to DEQ. So some things to consider when we're getting into the conditions. As far as conforming to applicable provisions of the resolution, conditional use permit approval is required to permit the sewage treatment facility because we are changing what was originally approved. Comments. So we had a few comments. So Colorado Interstate and Wyoming Interstate Gas Company has reviewed the information, has determined no facilities are in the immediate area. They don't have any concerns. Public Works Director Gene Legursky, 2 Sweetwater County License A will need to be obtained in order to cross Oxbow Drive and Ox Yoke Drive. Both roads will need to be patched at a minimum of 4 inches of asphalt pavement and 8-inch of grading W road base for the entire length of the road crossing. Only one road can be closed at a time for construction operations and patching. License will not be granted by Sweetwater County until the YDOT easement is granted. So from YDOT, what you'll see, I'm not going to go through this, and Darren is on the line, but there were some things, again, the punch list items that are in here and that we have included into the conditions of the permit. Mark Westenskow, who is he here still? He is, okay. Had some questions, and we do have the applicants here to address those. Will the proposed package plant be used only for Love's Travel Center? Or will its capacity be available to other offsite users in the future? What is the potential for expansion and or increased flows in the future? The permit for the proposed package plant appears to have no nutrient limit for phosphorus. And I believe Joint Powers Water Board had a comment on that also. And the proposed plant will be a point source located approximately 4 miles upstream from the Green River Rock Springs Sweetwater County Joint Powers Water Treatment Plant, serving up to 50,000 daily with no phosphorus limit. What is the level of concern for harm due to algae blooms to the raw water reservoir in use at the Joint Powers Water Board water plant? Who is the plan intending to use for licensed operators? What is this level of certification? So Madam Chair, what I'll do is I'm going to go through these. I have forwarded these questions and comments to the applicant, and so I can have them answer those questions.
Perfect. Kim, would you like to come up and address
Oh,
it? Or
I
do
look-
what? Or
I'm almost to the end
Oh,
here.
sorry, no, please go.
Yeah, no problem. There's the concerns from the Joint Powers Water Board.
Mhm.
As you know, the water treatment, and this came from Brian Seppi, I believe.
Yeah,
If
I
not,
think
Terry
so.
signed it. Is it come from Brian? Okay. As you know, the proposed wastewater treatment plant and its discharge will be approximately 4 miles upstream of the water intakes for Joint Powers Water Treatment Plant. The Joint Powers Water Board plant serves approximately 39,000 people in Sweetwater County. Obviously, a new wastewater treatment plant upstream can raise some concerns that I would like to convey. After reviewing the WDEQ permit to construct and WYPDES permit, I understand that a 23,000 gallon per day wastewater treatment plant is proposed. It appears to be a package plant that was permitted as new technology and equipment under Chapter 11, Section 5. As the manager of Joint Powers Water Board water treatment plant, I fully understand the difficulty and resources that are required to staff with certified operators and fund the operation and maintenance of a treatment facility. Certified operators are critical to the operation of these types of facilities. With 26 years of experience, I've seen numerous small systems fall into disrepair and into non-compliance over time. And Madam Chair, we have seen that also. I think that's been brought up that we've had, I don't want to call anybody out, but there have been small package plants that are not kept well, and that is of concern. I'm not saying that will happen here, but the state and county need to be diligent in assuring ongoing compliance with effluent limits. After reviewing the MPDES permit, the permitted effluent limits and sampling frequency are of some concern to the Joint Powers Water Board. As a downstream de facto reuser, monthly sampling frequency of BOD, pH, TDS, and TSS are concerning. Generally, more frequent sampling would be required at a mechanical plant directly discharging to the river. Is the wastewater treatment plant operated and monitored daily, or is it solely ran in automatic? If ran in automatic, can plant upsets be corrected in a timely fashion? Within the MPDES permit, it is surprising that nitrates and phosphorus are not limited numerically, especially given the close proximity to the drinking water plant. The Joint Powers Water Board has completed an off-channel storage reservoir for raw river water. The reservoir is a redundant supply to the water treatment plant, and at times may be the sole source of water used. Additional nutrient loads within the river water can limit or even jeopardize our ability to store the water due to the degradation of water quality from algae and moss growth. Thus, my concern in the non-specified effluent limit on nitrates and phosphorus in the MPDES permit, obviously this concern is made worse by the drought conditions experienced in the Green River Basin. I can understand the rationale for the proposed plant and the need for improvements at the site. My biggest concern is that its effluent is monitored closely and frequently so that our drinking water is not impacted. If you have questions, please contact me on the above listed number. So we have conditions that if this is approved, that should be now, one of them, I'm definitely not as comfortable until we have further discussion, and I'll get to it. But the owner of the wastewater shall operate and maintain the plant in accordance with all applicable federal, state, and local. The spill prevention containment plan that was shall be continually maintained. That was approved in the previous conditional use permit. Condition 3, approval of the conditional use is contingent upon WYDOT final inspection approval and acceptance of 2 WYDOT access permits and associated conditions for the Love's Truck Stop off of Wyoming 374. These 2 accesses are waiting permit approved and require a number of outstanding punch list items with highway lighting, electrical work to be addressed, and the submission of as constructed plans and all highway mitigations associated with this development by the applicant. The proposed direct access shown onto Wyoming 374 will not be allowed by WYDOT. Access to and from the wastewater facility must be provided internally via the Love's travel stop. There was on the site plan, it was showing another access, and that's not going to be approved by WYDOT. So we support that. The applicant owner of the wastewater shall submit. Now this, I want to hold off on number 5. It's talking about submitting a copy of the effluent sampling until we further discuss, Madam Chair, the what we want to do there. And after we've heard from DEQ and heard from the applicant's engineer and the applicant. Whoever you want talking, Kim. As far as number 6, 2 Sweetwater County Type A licenses will need to be obtained in order to cross Oxbow Drive and Oxy Oak Drive. Both, and so I won't repeat this, but that was what was in, this is basically Mr. Legursky's comment included as a condition. All trash, garbage dumpsters shall be covered and maintained with a solid fenced area. All recommendations outlined in the July 2019 TIA shall be implemented and maintained. And the conditional, that was on the original conditional use permit. This term of this permit, we are wanting to be in line with DEQ, which is 5 years. So that was the 5-year time limit. Landscaping will be continually maintained on site according to the 2019 landscaping plan approved with conditional use permit 2019-10 and construction permit 2019-144. If a public sewer line is constructed within 400 feet of the property owner shall connect to public sewer. Madam Chair, these are discussion items. Staff is not recommending approval of this. We have serious concerns about this, especially with now sewer line going out there. I just don't think this is a long-term solution. Very concerned. We share the same concerns with Joint Powers Water Board. City of Green River has concerns about it. This is our drinking water. We need to protect it, Madam Chair. And then I just open this up for any questions.
You have, where do you begin? I know, it's like, ooh, where do you begin? Does anybody have any questions or want to start some questions for Eric?
Is there more studying or something that we can find out the effects of the stuff going to our water? I mean, does Joint Powers, I know they test, but is there a way for us to find out if there's a mass overleak, and they have a mass dump on a failure, what's going to happen to our water supply?
Madam Chair, Mr. Richards, Commissioner Richards, I think Joint Powers Water Board's best to answer that question, and Mr. Lee, the chairman, is here.
Okay.
Or whoever.
Chair, my name is Terry Lee. I'm the chair of the Joint Powers Water Board. And Michael here, he's actually the engineer in operations, and he can answer your question.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Michael Tardoni, engineer at Joint Powers Water Board. So the specific question you asked is, if there was a release, what would we actually see?
Yeah, if there was a failure at this plant.
Thank you.
Sorry, just so Zoom, everybody.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We do test every 2 hours for certain measurements, and some that are actually continuous pH, organic. We follow that as well continually. In those cases, if we saw something that was significant, we would actually go to the reservoir in that time frame. That being said, if the reservoir was compensated, then we would have to basically shut down until that cleared.
I got a question. So as you all know, we've been going through a drought for a number of years.
Yes.
Low cubic feet per minute on flows.
Yes.
Reservoir might be low. We're in a drought situation. They have a spill. Well, let's say a contaminated, their packing plant goes down, their bacteria is not being broke up. It's a raw sewage dump into the river. You have minimal flows. You have minimal storage in your facility. Worst case scenario, what happens to the plant?
It shuts down.
Yeah. So just so everybody knows, the whole communities, Rock Springs, Green River,
Has no
whatever in their
water.
tanks, that's it.
Yes.
Until
It actually clears. And so at a lower flow rate, it's going to be a little bit
Longer.
more time, but once,
Yeah.
if you have a higher flow, over time, it'll clear and then we'd start back up.
So the flow rate actually has a lot to do with the amount of particles are going to be in.
But it's just the rate at which it goes by the intakes.
Yeah.
And if I can add, just because at times, depending upon what the flow in the river is like, I mean, we have to shut our irrigation and stuff off just so they don't deplete their reserves when the water quality, the clarity, whatever during the spring release would exacerbate that to a little bit of a point as well. So.
Now, I have another question. I've done some research on a packing plant and I'll speak to the Lowe's people on this. But if they have a contamination in their packing plant, which could lead up to at least 5 days for the bacteria to grow back in, to start having a discharge that's going to be clean and, clean as what they're stating. But in 5 days, we have a drought. Could the waste to the Joint Powers Water Board sustain Rock Springs and Green River for 5 days if everything shut down?
With the reservoir, yes, sir.
I mean, no, the reservoir low. I mean, worst case scenario. How long could it sustain?
It's whatever's in the tanks. And we do have
Basically-
clear wells that are a million apiece. In the summer, we're typically running about 21 million gallons a day. In the winter, it's slightly, significantly less, somewhere around 6 million gallons. So once we filled those up, those tanks at our customers, that would be it.
So just so everybody knows, we're talking about Rock Springs, Green River, Simplot, because they get all their water also.
Correct. And during those situations, we would stop. In that case, I do believe, and please correct me, that Simplot would be restricted at that point and focused definitely on the public.
Okay.
And that is the priority.
Does anybody else have any questions for Mr. Tardoni?
I'm relatively new, so I'm just gonna make sure is everything I stated. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
For
you.
being here today. Yeah, no, have a seat. No. You've been here this long. Does anyone from, does Mr. Thomas, anyone from DEQ, or do you want me to go ahead and have the applicant come up and
Why don't we have the applicant come up,
Okay.
Madam Chair? Mr.
Okay.
Van Dyke is here.
Mr. Van Dyke, if you'd like to come up and reintroduce yourself and add or answer questions and.
Okay, my name is Kim Van Dyke and I work for a short time with Love's. Let's see, I'll have 25 years with them in 2 more months. What I could tell you, and I think some of you are familiar with me, I started and found this site and have done hundreds for Love's in the course of my 16 years in the real estate. And I think I would start with a comment that Eric made that he would prefer us to be hooked up to a sewer system versus a package plant. Couldn't agree more. I've been to numerous meetings all over this town, in Jamestown, coming from Salt Lake City to try to figure it out for years. I have also participated at a moment's phone call from Eric or anyone here for us to support financially, whatever it takes to be hooked up to a system. I'll do it right now. I'll start out there and start digging the line if we have a sewer system up running up the road. Would I not do this?
Yeah.
Without fail, there's nothing that we're doing that we can't sustain in the best way of any company I know in America. I'll put that on the line right now, that if our system starts failing, we're going to do whatever it takes, just like we're doing, because the other system failed for whatever reason. I'm not the expert. The guys that you're going to be able to talk to here, they can tell you, you could drink the water at the end of what we're going to put into the river. Otherwise, we wouldn't have this permit from the DEQ. No offense to anyone else and what the locals are doing. The DEQ has already looked at the system, what's going into it, what's going to go into the river, and they have approved that it's not going to harm that river. Correct or incorrect? Someone tell me if I'm wrong. They say you could drink the water. I wouldn't volunteer to drink it at the end, but I tell you, if that's what it takes to get us a system that can keep us from paying $750,000 to haul our waste to the plant, to keep that business going, that employs local people, takes people off the highway, keeps trucks here pretty soon. I don't know if this is a big storm, little storm yet, but Darren will tell you also with the DOT that they asked us to be here because they logistically need way more truck parking than what we've furnished along this system, because you guys closed down probably more than any major interstate in the United States. All I'm saying is we need a fix temporarily. Nice to hear what the voting public did last night. I didn't know that. But yeah, I did kind of pray about it last night. I've been doing it for years, saying, what do we need to do financially? I've said it time and time again. We'll help market a system that can come across to us, past us, to development on the other side where you have the beautiful golf course. And I understand kind of a nice area to build housing out there. If that's where it's going, great. We're still going to do our fair share to get that system done, including years ago committed to funds and recently funds to make it happen. So it sounds like maybe that goal is there, but again, a interim fix. And I've already committed a long time ago. Don't even need to ask me again. This would be an expensive interim fix, but as soon as that sewer line is right across from us, I'll be out there to turn the valve on. We'll connect immediately. We don't want to be on that septic system. We don't want to be on what we have today that failed for whatever reason. I don't know those. Shift in the ground didn't percolate, whatever it is. It happened, and we've been having to deal with it for over a year. So that's my stance of my time with Love's, of what I know they will do that is the right thing to do. I know what they'll do. If that means that we figure out, and I'm not committing to it because I don't know the system, that we could test it instead of once a quarter, once a month, every 2 weeks. I don't know what that is, but I think we would look at every single requirement, Madam Chair, that you all decide we need to consider and that council, the commissioners would approve. We're going to look at anything that it takes for us to get out of the situation that we're in and not be harmful to the local citizens. That's the last thing that we want to do. But again, I think we need to take into consideration what the DEQ has said about the system and the water that goes into the river. Number one, I hope the drought goes away, that we don't ever get to a system that you don't have enough water to take care of your own people. That happens in California, where everyone, not including just Love's, that maybe we have to start turning off showers and drivers don't get showers. Local people don't get showers. You don't get to use our bathroom either, but neither do the people in town. You all will have to do the same thing. If it ever has a problem where you get that bad of a drought, everyone's going to have to consider doing those options. It's not a fun option. I hope it never happens, but it takes everyone. It won't be just only Love's and what's going into the system that we're taking over there. So I'd like to hold any more of my thoughts and comments, which I have a bunch right now, but I'd like to see if we could get Eric, whoever our designers and engineers, they know a lot more about it than I do. All I could defend is Love's Travel Stop, the company that I've worked 25 years for, and their commitment to all of our locations to do the right thing.
Madam Chair. Thank you, Kim, for your comments. Just to point out, and I hope Amelia can address this, the issue is maintenance. That's because it is a private system compared to a public. So I did reach out to Amelia. I did say that that is a concern. So Amelia, maybe you could, if you're done, Kim, no problem. If she could address some of those issues, because that ultimately, and I think,
Would help. Yeah.
yes, it would. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely. I'm Amelia. I'm with Apex Companies, and we did prepare a short PowerPoint presentation. Scott Huseman is with Apex as well, and he's going to speak to the system as a whole, is also, and also the concerns we looked at ahead of time to address today.
And hopefully you can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we have just a quick presentation to give you a little more details on the system and how it operates. So basically going to go through some background, a little bit of the system overview, some of the key components, current permitting, what our effluent quality will be, and what the operational commitment is from Love's. So really, as stated previously, the leach field has failed, it's non-functioning. And right now, all the waste is being stored and hauled off site. Love's explored several options and determined that this would be the best option for this interim system. This is just basically an overview of the property. As mentioned, the wastewater treatment plant will sit here. If you notice, we've already revised the access. So we're taking that out of the right of way for DOT. But inside the right of way will be the discharge line that goes down to Green River for the discharge. This is the system. We're going to reuse the existing septic tank and solid separation system. And we are going to go to a multiple train system. We are actually going to install 3 sets of tanks for the treatment system. All of the tanks will be underground, but we are only going to install the internal components to these 2 tanks that are towards the north for the time being. The 2 tanks will handle the peak discharge of 23,000 gallons a day. And then the water will discharge to a post aeration tank and then to the discharge. The only items that will be above ground are, it's a prefab concrete shed, 10 feet by 10 feet, a backup generator, and some of the electrical components and some small blowers that'll sit on the surface. So this is just a little description of the solid separation. It has fine screens to make sure that we keep the MBR system operating properly. The MBR bioreactor does have nutrient treatment for nitrate. It does not have it for phosphate at this point. And we also have a sophisticated real-time monitoring system that we'll talk about a little bit later. So this is a picture of the ultrafiltration system, which is part of the membrane bioreactor. It's a flat plate system, and the blowers will actually aerate the sewage as well as clean these filters to make sure that they continue to operate properly. It'll filter solids smaller than 1 micron. So the effluent that's coming out of this plant, and the only way for the effluent to come out of this plant other than spilling on the ground at Love's, is through this filtration system. So as far as package plants go, it's not a standard package plant where you have a clarifier and it can fail, the sludge can bubble or whatever, and you have a bunch of solids and problems going out the effluent line. That just can't happen here. We also designed these plants to have 5 days worth of holding time. And I don't know if there's anybody there with experience in wastewater, but Love's, as well as a lot of other people, are starting to use a lot of quaternary ammonia. And that is used to sterilize inside the restaurants, as well as bathrooms and everything else. And it tends to have a long residual time. So where most package plants treat water for about a day, we're actually holding the water and treating it for 5 days to make sure we can break down all of those compounds. We also half the typical design rate for an MBR system. MBR systems in the past have been known to not meet the flow rates that they typically should meet, or that they get clogged too quickly. And so we have a design that we have worked with Love's on and the manufacturer And we have several of these installed at other Love's locations, and we're having just fantastic results with them. And really the key is we're designing the system for half the flow compared to a typical system. The effluent discharge is going to be below grade. We understand that in the river, there is possibly a sedimentation, siltation issue. So we're actually doing ports to spread out the discharge and to have it bubble up from the bottom so that it'll get spread out as best as possible and not create any obstruction in the river. Okay, this is an example of the continuous controls. This is a picture of what's on the PLC, which is the programmable logic controller. And it gives you an idea of everything that's going on within the system. It tells you how many gallons have gone through. So each one of these are the filter pump gallons, and these are actually the discharge quantities. So each one of the tanks will have 4 of these filtration systems in it. And so it does track each one. So we know what's coming out of each unit more so than even each tank. We also have a vacuum PSI. These pumps pull a vacuum, and the vacuum will tell us if the filters are getting clogged or not. And if the filters are getting clogged when the pump is running, it will send an alarm, and then we'll know about it. The worst case scenario is that one of the filters could get torn. If a filter gets torn, obviously it's not going to filter like we want it to. And so if a pump is running, in this case up here, the pump's not running. But if we have a low PSI when the pump is running, then it will automatically send an alarm. So this is a picture of the alarm screen. And you can see here, this is another side. It says filter pump 3 vacuum high. And so that it needs cleaning. And the alarms go to us. Apex is the designer. They go to Utility Services, who's the operations contractor, and they go to Love's. So we all know what's going on immediately, and we can make sure that the system is taken care of. At this point, we have a proven track record of excellent results with these systems. The duplicate equipment installed for redundancy was part of the permit requirements, but also, as I said, we designed these systems for half the flow. So if we had to, we could run on one system and still produce the volume and quantity that we need. It's just going to cause the membranes to clog faster and have to be cleaned. The system that I showed you before with the alarm, that's exactly what happened. We had a blower failure. We ran on one side of the train for an extended period of time, actually. And that's why that filter is clogged and needed to be cleaned. The cleaning process is pretty easy. We take a dilute bleach solution and we pour it down the effluent pipe and backwash it into the filter and into the system, and it will clean it. If over time that the membranes fail, we'll actually be able to pull those and replace them as needed. But at this point, that's a 5 years or longer prospect. As mentioned, all of this is subsurface. We do that for visual as well as for temperature regulation. We have the long detention time, as I mentioned. We have these real-time controls and extensive alarm systems. And then we also have the whole other train that's being installed for future expansion as needed. The intent is for this system only to service Love's and not service anybody else at this point. But there is an option to expand it for Love's if needed. This particular Love's facility already has a lot more traffic, I believe, than they initially intended. To give you an idea of where we are on permitting, I was under the impression that the right-of-way permit was approved. It sounds like it is with some conditions, and especially if we're removing the additional access point. Obviously, we need to go through the conditional use permit process, and we need to go through the road crossing process. To give you an idea of the effluent, the treatment limits are on top. and the typical effluent that we see coming out of these plants is on the bottom. And a picture of the clarity and quality of the water that's coming out is what you can see. So typically we have these plants operated by a state licensed operator. I talked to the operations contractor yesterday, Utility Services, and they actually already have a licensed level 4 operator on staff to take over this plant when it comes online. And they have another backup operator per the regs that's also licensed, that's going to be available. Typically, they're going to do 3 site visits a week for visual inspection. Monitoring maintenance, they'll be able to look at oxygen, pH, ensure that the process is running properly and as expected. They'll be doing whatever maintenance, cleaning screens, as well as I mentioned, the continuous electronically monitored. One thing that I did want to say is the slides that you saw before. So this one here, this gets sent out every night at midnight on every plant that Love's has. And those go to us as the designer, to the operations person, and to Love. So everybody can keep an eye on the system, make sure that it's continuing to run properly. We can see if pressures are going up and if we need to do any kind of maintenance on it. You know, I think the bottom line is Love's really wants to be a good steward of the environment and good neighbor to the community. And this type of system is now their prototype system that's going in anywhere that they have to do a wastewater treatment plant. And the reason behind it is because it just simply provides quality effluent that meets all the permit limits all the time, and they don't have any problems with them. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for him while he's
I just
still
have
here?
one question on your solids. When you separate that, where does that go?
Yeah, so at this point, we don't have a contract set up yet. The way that these plants work is they typically run on a high solids content. And what we're seeing is it takes about a year after the plant starts before we have to haul off any solids. So obviously we're looking at several months of construction, depending on whether that's going to get extended a little bit, and then a year after that. So within that time frame, Love's will get a contract with somebody to take those solids. And I'm sure it's not going to be too much of a problem, considering right now they're hauling every day. And instead we're going to be hauling, you know, after the first year of operation, and then every 6 months or so after that.
Thank you.
How many other of these package plants do you guys have through Love's? I mean, how many of them are operational right now out in the wild?
Yeah, I believe Love's has 3. They're primarily in Illinois at this point.
And are they functioning, or they're running any, have you had any problems with them?
The one problem we had is when the blower malfunctioned, and that was actually an operator error. And then we replaced the blower, and that system is good. You can see where the filter was showing it needed to be cleaned. We cleaned the filter, and it has rebounded and is operating good now as well. So they just don't have any issues with it not meeting permit limits. It meets permit limits every time.
All righty, thank you.
So how long would it take for you, once you started from today's date, how soon, if you had all your permits, to get all your permits, how soon before your plant's up and running?
We're hoping to have it up and running this spring, early spring, but it's just going to depend on weather and how frozen the soil is, and if we can get the piping and everything in. We really wanted to obviously start before now.
So this leads up to another question. So if you're looking at spring, possibly to get started in construction, so let's say the end of next year, end of 2023, you're up and running. And the city of Green River can go through Jamestown and have a trunk line to you, possibly a year after that at the very latest, with the engineering construction on it being just a trunk line and they'll have all the pumps in place. Wouldn't it be more feasible to wait and just hook into their trunk line instead of spending millions of dollars on a packing plant?
Well, they're spending quite a bit of money hauling the waste currently. And on top of that, you have all the additional emissions you're putting out. You have all the traffic that associated with it and everything else. So I think that depending on the schedule, the cost could be somewhat of a wash. But if you have delays in putting that line in, then they're continuing to be stuck hauling this waste.
Yeah, but you also have to realize that Green River and Rock Springs is the very first point of contact for the Green River for our supply of water. We don't get any pollutants from anything upstream. We have the Fontenelle Reservoir to stop anything that we have. We have some of the cleanest water in the state. So for us as a community, this is a hard pill to swallow, even though you're saying, we're still talking about phosphorus. You don't know what the outflow is going to be on that, but you're talking to a community servicing 50,000 people that, we're going to have a upstream sewer plant 4 miles away. That's a hard pill to swallow. And if they can wait a year and a half to tie into a trunk line, well, more people are going to be in favor of that than you putting a packing plant in.
Yeah, I'm not sure there was a question there.
There really wasn't. I would just, there really wasn't a question, but I don't see the benefit, the cost benefit of you guys putting this in if it's going to be a wash.
Go through the
Yeah,
chair.
yes,
Chair, if I may.
Yes,
I'd like
please.
to just make a quick comment. I get the concern. But you just said, if the trunk line, sewer line is here within a year and a half, why not just wait? Probably a pretty good point, but I've been waiting for that trunk line for 5 years since my first meeting in Jamestown, just down the street.
Yeah. And
So can you, do you know
you do-
assurance that it's going to
we
be
have
there?
some people from the city of Green River and maybe the engineering. I don't know the logistics of how far they are on design. But this could be a priority project is what I'm saying, because everybody in this room knows that Jamestown is in a dire straits right now of the sewer disposal.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is if you can wait possibly up to 2 years to do it and it'll be a wash, why put the community in basically in jeopardy with a mishap? God forbid, it sounds like a great plan and it probably is, but you're talking Indiana or wherever these packing plants are, where there's a lot more river flows, a lot higher flows than what we have here. We're very limited, and we do have conditions of drought that we have to take in consideration. So what I'm saying is, well, I guess my question is, why not just wait? If you can get an answer from the engineering and from the cities of Rock Springs and Green River about the trunk line, why not just wait? That is my question.
Sure, and I'd like to hear those answers.
is that something, Mr. Westenhouse, can you shed any light to that for us at all, or?
Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the commission, Mark Westenhouse, Public Works Director, City of Green River. We're watching the election results with everyone last night and seeing the results on the 6 penny, of which there is one of the projects identified was a sewer line from Jamestown Rio Vista into the city of Green River. That's actually a county and city or a Jamestown Rio Vista project. It's actually not a city project. We're looking forward to working with them. We're looking forward to routing it through town, but it's actually not our project to design. It's the Jamestown Rio Vista Water and Sewer District, and their consultants are working that up. And we're looking forward to working with them. And I think this is it's an interesting position that Loves is in. They've been hauling to us for some time, at least a year. And we'll take it and we'll keep taking it. They've got to make their business decisions too. I would anticipate, not to put too many timelines on it. I would imagine that project to get the sewer line out there it's going to take in excess of a year to happen, design and construction and all. I appreciate the comments that were made by the engineer for Loves about in response to my specific questions about monitoring. I was pleased to see that they would have a contract operator, even if it isn't required by DEQ, that they would have weekly, 3 times a week monitoring. I appreciate that. That answered one of my questions. I still do share concerns about the phosphorus treatment. That hadn't been addressed, and isn't, but that's one issue. But as far as the trunk line getting out, we're looking forward to that happening. We've been, we were involved early on with Kim when he first came in, and, talking about the opportunities and the potentials for that. And we all haven't stopped working toward that. But it's sometimes it takes a little bit longer than we all want it to.
So if, I guess my question still wasn't answered, what would your time frame? I mean, okay, you're not the engineer on it. It's gonna be between the Jamestown and the county. They still have to tie into your wastewater system. What type of time frame? A best case scenario for Loves? What kind of time frame, if they was to get a trunk line started, how long do you think that could be before it could be done?
I'm thinking you're probably looking at least 2 years before it would be into Green River.
Because at this point, nobody from like Rio Vista has
They've
been in works with you as far as,
We've been talking to them about their master plan.
Okay.
They've been asking, they are working up their master plan, and now that they have the funding source, they'll be able to move forward with a design. That design will take some time and construction will take some time. So I would imagine it's certainly not going to be less than a year. I would imagine it'd be closer to 2 or perhaps more.
Okay.
They will still need to be working on alignment and right of way acquisition and things like that. And those are all things that are identified in there that they're working through with their master plan. So it's going to take a little bit of time.
okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, just a quick question for Mark. Do you know if the projects on the specific purpose can be bonded?
They can be. Whether they will be or not is a question. I was having a conversation with our staff just this morning about the potential for bonding. I would imagine that there probably is going to be some, but that's going to be among the participants to decide how much, which projects, and under what terms. So again, so bonding would allow there to be the funding immediately or relatively soon, rather than waiting and collecting the funds over time. Because the Jamestown Rio Vista project would be a multi-million-dollar project, waiting to collect the funds it would take a while
Forever.
to collect all that versus bonding. So again, all those are discussions, and we just got the results this morning.
Yep.
So some things we don't know yet.
So is there any, I mean, I'm just trying to help out both parties here. Is there any way that the city of Green River could give Loves a break on, I mean, I don't know what they're charging, but I'm sure it's not cheap to dump their sewage. I mean, if you're hauling 5 to 6 days a week, I can see their point of view too. I want to get this stuff done too. And if there's any way to alleviate some of that cost, I think maybe the city of Green River should be, to look into that.
Well, we've been working with them and making sure that they have a place to discharge. And I know that their costs aren't just to us. I know they have costs with their contractors and such. So, I mean, there's all kinds of pieces involved there.
Yeah.
So.
I'm just looking for help, Okay.
I mean, there's no question it needs to be addressed and something has to happen, so. Any other questions for anybody? Do we still have YDOT and DEQ on? I'm looking. Yes.
Yeah, this is Scott Huseman with Apex. I'd like to hear from WDEQ on the phosphorus issue. If they have any thoughts on that.
Hello, yeah, this is Jason Thomas with DEQ. As far as phosphorus goes, the permit does require monitoring for phosphorus, but the state does not have any numeric criteria for phosphorus. So there's really no limit to be had at this point in the permit. But we do understand it's a concern of yours at the drinking water intake downstream.
Okay, because Apex did just, quick back of the envelope calculation, and it looked like based on mean flows for the last couple of years, that the phosphorus would not increase. It would be below a half of a part per billion possibly with a typical discharge. And so the impact is very low as far as we can tell. And I didn't know if WDQ had gone through any other modeling on that.
No, not on the permitting end. We have not.
Thank you.
Thank you. Scott, while you're still on there, my question is, you say you have 3 that are in operation like this, but for how long have they been in operation, these new systems?
The first one that went in started operating about 3 years ago.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? We'll have
Yeah,
a chat. Oh.
let me say one other thing. One is, when I talked about the monitoring, if one of these membranes does get a tear in it, we can shut that off remotely. It's not like it's going to continue to dump and dump and dump and dump and dump. It's going to be whatever time it takes somebody to respond to the alarm, log into the system remotely, and turn that particular unit off. So I hear a lot of doomsday scenarios being presented, and we've done everything we possibly can do to try to keep those from happening. And it has to do with the way this plan is designed, the way it operates, what the alarm systems are, everything that's associated with it. And then I don't know if Love's is interested or not, but it is a possibility to put in from phosphorus treatment. And it'll work with the existing plant. We just would have to do a chemical feed, and it just increases the amount of sludge that is generated. So, but as I mentioned, the impact to phosphorus appears like it's going to be negligible.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to go ahead and open it up for public comment. If there is anybody in the audience that would like to talk in favor of the wastewater system, now is your time. Come on up.
I'm wearing 2 hats today.
Perfect. We like it.
My name's Terry Lee. I'm the chairman of the Joint Powers Water Board. And Eric read through Brian Seppi's response and a couple other items. Okay. Couple other items. One is for the DEQ. A recommendation is that large scale commercial water treatment plants should have a certified operator. I know that's DEQ statute or recommendation, but I'd like to make that. And I appreciate Love's to have a certified operator, at least monitoring the system. Thank you. The sampling frequency has been addressed. Sounds like it's continuous. But I would like to add a stipulation, if you please, is that the Joint Powers Water Board be notified immediately upon any upset conditions so we can respond. Well, that's a suggestion. Phosphates. The gentleman from DEQ was correct. I don't think there's any statutes on phosphates, but possibility for to be a good neighbor for Love's is eliminate all phosphate detergents. They do make phosphate-free cleansers and detergents. And that will help the problem. What happens with the phosphates, it creates large algae blooms and moss at a pump intakes and causes issues of trying to get the water out of the river. Casey, you made a comment about what if drought conditions and thing fails and stuff like that. Michael was correct. At a point, we would have to shut down the system. Now I'm doing some thinking out of the box here. This is, maybe if that was to happen, we could have a large increase out of Fontenelle solution to pollution dilution. We have to coordinate that, but hopefully that never comes up.
No.
Okay, the other hat. We had a meeting in this room on August 10th, 2019, when we discussed this before. And I'm disappointed that their system failed within 2 years. And at that meeting, there was recommendations made. Okay, where is it? Number 6 on the recommendations from that meeting. If the UIC permit is not approved by the DEQ, the applicant shall connect to a public sewer system with the city of Green River. That is shall connect. That was 2019. At that meeting, there was also a lot, this was a full house. There was a lot of public comment and a lot of written comments, and mostly about air quality and traffic. But there was a lot of comments about the sewer system, how effective it was going to be to be contained. And I'm not going to read those comments. There was quite a few
There
of
was a
them.
lot, yes.
But I really would like notification of any upset conditions immediately so we can respond. And to be a good neighbor, try to look at other detergents that don't use phosphates. And that will help that problem. Thank you for your time.
I have one question for you.
SKC.
So would you vote for it?
Well, the presentation by their engineer, I thought it was pretty good. Put me on the spot.
Well, the reason I'm asking is you guys are the professionals. You guys know what you need to do to run that plant properly. We don't.
Yep.
You know what can damage it, what could be a good neighbor.
Yep.
We don't. That's why your opinion means a lot.
Yep. Well, I can't speak for the water board, even though I'm chair. This would be my personal opinion. I'd like to have them delayed this system to more details are developed on hooking up to a public sewer. That is the solution. Public system. And this is just a temporary Band-Aid.
And I would agree with that.
Yep. I don't know if that answers your question. I'm not going to answer that.
No,
one.
no, you're fine.
Anything else? Good to see you guys.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Is there anybody in the, oh, yep, absolutely. You're,
Another thought crossed my mind is that since this is involving the Green River itself, why wasn't the Wyoming Fish and Game brought into the system? Were they asked?
I don't know if they were sent a comment form or not, but
Okay, just a question.
thank you. Is there anybody in the audience that is in opposition of the conditional use permit? Would you like to speak now? Please come up and introduce yourself.
Bruce Mandros. I don't know if I'm in opposition. I just don't know nothing's going on with it. And I have the lot right next to it. And he said that it's going to start out with 1 of 4 trains. Is that correct?
2 of
Oh, for the system?
For the system.
Yeah.
So you got 1 train. If that one upsets, it's gonna, he said it'd flood over. The only place it'd go would be onto Love's yacht lot. My lot's within probably 100 feet of their tank that's sitting right now, which is downhill, and they've elevated it, so it would run right into my property. So, if you're only doing 1 of 4 trains, you don't have a backup, where do you go from there? Second question is, they say the blowers, what's gonna be the smell coming off of it? I mean, is there some odor, you know, because the prevailing wind is gonna be straight downwind and straight into us and people downwind. And I guess that's probably my biggest thing. I didn't know nothing about it, you know, I just got a letter in the mail, so I thought I'd come and see what's going on.
Well, no, we appreciate you being here because you are an adjacent property and should be here, so you know. Is that something, Scott, you can address, or Amelia, as far as his questions?
Yes, I'm happy to respond. So the first thing is a little bit of clarification. There are 3 complete trains. Each train would have 4 of the filtration units installed inside of it. At this time, we are only going to put the filtration units in 2 of the 3 trains. So there would be an option for expansion if Love's needed the extra flow. And then the other clarifying point is that, remember, we designed these for half. So 1 train actually is large enough to handle all the flow from the plant. We're just afraid that it'll plug the membrane quicker than we want. So it's just a short-term solution. So we have this over-designed to the point where only one train can handle it if needed. Above that, to meet the WDEQ requirements, we also had to put in an additional blower. So if a blower were ever to fail, we would just turn that on. And then also with the 8 filtration units, obviously, if we lose 1 filtration unit, the other 7 will be able to handle the flow easily while we get that one replaced or repaired. As far as odor is concerned, these are all underground. And the odor that comes off of it is negligible. You really shouldn't smell anything. As long as this is operating properly and it's aerated, you're not going to have any foul odors coming off of it.
Okay. The key word is if it's operating correctly.
Correct.
And he didn't address if there's an overflow, because he made a comment about if it flooded over, it would be on their property. Because it's in a vault or whatever underground, they've got access, so if it flows over, it's gonna go up over the top. Is that not correct? And because he said it would maintain within the Love's property, and, you know, my property is straight down within 100 feet. I would guess somewhere in there. I mean, it's right next to it.
And you said the septic tank right now is below your elevation?
I don't know. All I know is their tanks that they have, their temporary ones.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just right there close to the fence. I mean, I'm right there,
Yeah.
right next to where everything's
Yeah.
going on.
I don't know, Bruce, I don't know.
So, like I said, I didn't know nothing about this. I got a letter in the mail, thought, well, I'd come find out, because I don't want my property devalued by something that they're doing. I mean, if everything runs all right and operates, I got no problem with it, but saying it's engineered to handle this and their longest one in operations for 3 years, that's not a very long track record for something to be in operation and running.
But
And
from
then-
what I understand though, Bruce, and as soon as that trunk line's out there within 400 feet of their property, they have to connect into the city sewer system.
Right.
Yeah. So it sound like maybe two years, and then they're connecting into it.
Yeah. But that was my concerns. I mean, I don't want something out there that's everybody downwind's gonna stink.
No.
Right.
So a plant typically is gonna give off an odor.
Well, honestly, the tanks that you have there currently are not treated, they're not aerated, so they should be giving off much more odor than a treatment plant will. And you also have much more of a risk involved because you have raw sewage essentially being stored inside these tanks that are above ground. And if there was some sort of failure there, I think you'd have quite a bit of sewage flowing. So I understand your concern with having this next to your property. I just think for an interim solution, I would want this as opposed to having these tanks with raw sewage sitting next to my site.
Well, I'm just voicing my opinion.
Absolutely. No.
I don't have nothing. It's just a vacant lot right now. But it might put a shop out there or something. Who knows
In the
what's coming
future.
up? So right now I don't smell nothing because I'm never out there.
I live close and I
So-
don't smell anything, so thank heavens.
That's all I have to say.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thank
much for your comment. Is there anybody else that would like to say something in general regarding the application? Okay, hearing none, we're going to close the public comment. We're going to open it back up to the board for comments, questions, concerns, if we've not already spoke about them.
I have one question and I'm sure it's probably in here somewhere, but what is the rate of effluent right now coming out of the Love's truck stop for sewage?
So the rate is about 15 to 17,000 gallons a day. And the system is designed to handle 23,000 gallons a day, which has been the peak that we have seen as we've been monitoring it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, one thing, if I may, and this might be a question to DEQ, but I believe currently you're under violation, Loves, is because of the system failing. If this does not get approved, what happens after that? Jason, if you can, I don't know if that's your department or not. If you're still there, there you go.
Yeah, that's a good question. I know that the permit we wrote for this project that's being discussed is the surface discharge of treated sewage. And so there's no violation history on that because it hasn't been built yet. The permit was just simply issued for the event that it was built. The septic system and any violations on that, I unfortunately would not be aware of that directly. That would be through our water and waste group or through our underground injection control group. Those are the folks that handle subsurface disposal. So I apologize, but I don't have confirmation for you one way or the other on the compliance history of the existing system.
Okay, thank you.
As far as I know, they're in compliance. There is no violation right now going on because they are hauling the sewage off.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you, Amelia.
Thank you, Amelia.
With sitting on this board with Terry in 2019, when all of this came up, I feel like we're taking a step back to a degree. This is a very hard one because we were assured with engineering and stuff that, you know, the septic systems that they put in across the country do not fail. And it was 3 months out of the gate. It has failed for the last year. Something I know does need to be done with this. I don't know if this is the correct answer. Public sewer is definitely the key. My fear with Rio Vista, not only personally, but professionally, feel it's going to be longer than 2 years. I think that would be amazing if it was 2 years, but I have a feeling it's going to be a 5 to 10 year project. I truly do. They don't move quickly on anything. I know they've got this money just as of last night, and which is amazing, but my fear is it's going to be a long time. I don't know what the solution is because we were guaranteed it, you know, the last system was not going to fail, and here we are. So I would like to hear from you guys, your input as well. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I think I'm about in the same position you are. I applaud Lowe's for coming up with a solution
Absolutely.
to this problem that's out there. With the tax passing and now at least there's some funding for that. But yeah, I agree with you. We don't know what that time frame is or how long that may be, or if we could even expedite that at any point.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're definitely in a quandary, that's for sure.
So where we're at now is where we're at, and we need to, something needs to be done and something needs to move forward. Loves can't really just sit around and wait for that trunk line to be taken to them. Something's got to be done now, whether it's hauling it off or whether it's doing this package plant. I'm sure Loves and along with their engineers have probably done some sort of cost management type thing. maybe with the new information that they have with that trunk line possibly being built, maybe that can go into that equation a little bit, maybe that changes things a little bit. But something's gonna have to be done. I think Love's hearing from their engineer and stuff, it sounds like they have been pretty diligent of what they're doing. I know we've had failure in the past, but I think Love's has reacted to that failure and has made sure that nothing has occurred with our drinking water. So for me, I think we got to move forward with whatever it is, and we've got an option laid out before us. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you, Rob. Casey, do you have anything additional? I know you've had some amazing questions that I would have never thought about, so I appreciate that.
Well, I've listened to the Love's engineering, and it makes a lot of sense. Listen to the Joint Powers Water Board. They make a lot of sense. Listen to Eric and even Mr. Westoncow. I'm a two thoughts here. One, it's not my fault that their septic system failed. They should have had this designed, and I know failures happen. That's one train of thought. You know, it's not my fault, let it be. But then also I have to look at the long term. I says, you know, Love's does bring a business into our community, which it employs people, and they do provide a service. Then I'm also thinking, well, it's my water that I'm drinking at the end of the spigot. What the Joint Powers Water Board said, that made me feel a little bit better about that. I still have reservations about the package plant, but Rio Vista, I think if there was just, this is the ideal thing, if there was a time frame that Rio Vista could, you know, get on the ball, get something proposed and get some bids out. So Love's would know how long, and maybe they would want to participate instead of doing the package plant, reinvest that money into the, you know, speeding this process along. I don't know if they've even thought about that since this has passed. I mean, it's just new.
Yeah.
This is new for all of us. So I'm on the fence, to be honest with you. I came in here negatively. I was dead set no, but right now I'm on the fence, and I just think that maybe Rio Vista and Love's could talk and maybe move this project forward quicker. So they, you know, they might be able to participate in. I don't know if anybody's even thought about that, but I know like Rob just said, they want to move forward, and I don't blame him. You know, I know what the cost of this stuff is involved. So that's my thoughts.
Eric, do you have anything you'd like to add?
So one thing we could do to address some of the concerns is definitely put a tight time frame on it. I know I put 5 years in there, but we could definitely lessen that if that's the desire of the Planning and Zoning Commission, to recommend a smaller time frame on there so that we can get what needs to be put out there ultimately. And so just something to consider. 5 years was put in there because it was tying to DEQ, but you can make it shorter if you need to.
I think the 5 years is reasonable, because I just,
Okay.
I don't foresee
Just-
it being anything
Just
sooner.
get the how long, gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's just my opinion.
I guess I do have one question. I'm sorry, for the people at Love's. Would they be willing to talk to Rio Vista to move that project along? Or are they want to get this package plant done and be good with it?
Yes, please come on up.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So I'll try to answer that the best I can. Again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I attended numerous meetings in the little building, the little tin building right off the hill, left-hand side. Sat in there front row with the grant people of the state of Washington. Do we have the grant people in here?
No.
No grant people? So my efforts have been, anytime I get a call from Eric or anyone in the county or with Jamestown, I've answered promptly and responded immediately. I don't know what else we can do other than my commitments to help them with applications that we did until it came back from the state that I personally and the Loves family had to personally give all of our personal information to them. Can't do that. But we made every effort till that position came up from them. Will I still attend meetings? Are we still willing to financially help with this? Yes. We haven't ever said, this is our next option and we're going to put it in and then see you later. That's never come up because it's already documented that we said we will tie into the system when it gets here. No questions asked. I'm just asking for help right now to get over the hump till we get to that. I hope it happens in 2 years. Madam Chair, because I've been coming here for a long, long time, I haven't seen that happen. But again, we never had the money either.
Right.
So again, if it means, I'm not trying to toot Love's horn any more than I have to, but I love working for the family that I do. And when asked for even small funds to get things done, I've done it immediately. And I'll do it again. If that means going to the state again, helping Jamestown with our attorneys, I've offered that all along, us doing the report, whatever we need to do. We're still on board. I just need help to get over what we're doing today out there. And I'll continue to do it. And that's all I can say is, I think my track record speaks for itself. I would like to ask though, with the water board, it still sounds like to me, phosphorus, maybe we could kind of add another test kit inside this facility. It's 1/1,000,000th of 1%, if I heard right. So let's say you help us out and recommend this to the commission and they let us keep going and we clean up the mess that's there and have a better system until the day that the system comes in and then we hook up to it. So if that small phosphorus piece is in the river, by the time it gets 4 miles to you within your system, do you have something that would detect that it's over the 1/1,000,000th level? I mean, wouldn't you have that today? That if we kind of, do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, I
Is
see what you're saying, yes.
it's going through. I'm
Yes.
just saying, I'm trying to cover every base I can, including the gentleman that's my neighbor. I'll wait for you. I'll stay here and do whatever I can to keep the odors away from your property and make sure we put up a berm, whatever we need to do. I didn't know that was happening. Most people do call me right away. So again, I'm just saying, if that 1/1,000,000th of 1% gets in the water and our only concern now seems to be phosphorus gets 4 miles down.
What will it be at the end down there?
Yeah, what's going to be now when you guys grab it and you go, we're not detecting anything? Or so if you can detect it, then that's just another alert that, hey, shut it down and let's fix the problem before we get in trouble. So hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Thank you.
If I can add something quickly.
Yes, please.
Before we started designing this project, we actually did have a conference call with I think it was a local engineer to see when that public lateral was going to be installed so that we could connect. And at the time, they didn't have a plan and they didn't have any money. And so we obviously went down this design path. After last night, things changed a little bit, but I also know that municipalities typically can't get this stuff done that quickly. So I agree with the 5 to 10 year time frame is probably likely, and I think this is the best solution in the interim.
Thank you, Scott. Any last discussion?
I'll just say, you know, we need a solution. What,
We do.
it might not be the best fit for everybody. The septic would have worked first. That'd have been the best solution. But now we're to what's next, you know, there has to be a solution. This is the option. You know, I mean, if we deny this, what's the option? You know, what we will have, it'll have to go somewhere from there. You know, what's the best solution? You know, because we got this problem,
I agree. It
you
needs to be
know, and
addressed.
it's not a pretty problem, you know, it's just, it's something that needs addressed.
No,
You know, we just
agree.
make sure it's covered properly, you know.
So looking at recommendations. It's your 11 items that you currently have on this.
Yeah, yes.
I have a question with your staff recommendations.
Sure.
Because Love's because it is a privately owned, we cannot require them to have a level 2 or 4 operator. Is that something because they have said they are willing to do that we can add into those conditions or no?
Madam Chair,
Is that for
That'd be
John?
John.
what do you think? Because you and I have had discussions about this. I mean, it could be a condition where, you know, kind of added on a number 5, I think is what you're alluding to,
Yes.
where you can say, certified,
Mhm.
the proposed certified operator will be certification will be maintained. I don't know what your feeling is about that. I mean, I'm okay with putting that in there, make me feel better about the situation if there's a certified operator.
Madam Chair, so the question that you proposed, and I think that's what we were starting to talk about in the last hearing, is that you've, I believe the evidence is that the Loves would be in agreement with that condition. And as such, I think that you can put that as a condition. When Eric is talking about some of the discussions that have been had and DEQ is here with us. DEQ does provide the minimum standards that are required. And so I think that Eric is recommending proper precautions and recommendations. That being said, you wouldn't be changing DEQ standards. You wouldn't be setting standards. You're looking at an individual case, individual circumstances, and gathering evidence that would be appropriate for circumstances particular to a particular case. And so as such, that is something that you can
We can.
consider.
Thank you. Sorry. I just need to be good.
No. That's my only question on that. And then, I agree. That needs to be added.
I do too. All right, do we have a motion for the amended conditional use permit for the wastewater system with the recommendations from the staff, including a certified, now I lost my train of thought, certified person,
So,
plant operator, thank you.
Madam-
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I could offer one thing I thought there was something that the applicant stated about is it weekly monitoring? Do I have that correct? That there's
I did that they were 3 times a week doing site visits and testing, and then once a week doing E. coli is what I had wrote down.
Okay, so one thing on condition 5 is that they'll submit monthly effluent. Maybe that gets changed to weekly, and then we can also include to the Sweetwater County Land Use Department and Joint Powers Water Board. So that we're both the land use and, I mean, the joint, that plan is being maintained all the time. I mean,
Correct.
I feel better that they're getting those reports because we're a 8 to 5 Monday through Friday office.
Mhm.
That Not to say that we don't need those, we do, but I'm especially concerned about the Joint Powers Water Board receives those directly also.
I agree.
And would you like notifications of any issues as well?
Yes. As far as the detergent goes, that I appreciate that comment. It's going to be hard I have to always look at from the enforcement side of things, and it's going to be hard for me to enforce.
Oh,
Walking into Love's Truck Stop and making sure,
hey,
you know,
yeah.
and how are we going to, that's the way I have to look at it is how do I enforce? Now I can enforce a weekly report if we're not getting it, but if I don't, and I'm not an expert but it will show those limits of where things should be at as far as the effluent goes.
Mhm.
But it would be hard for us to enforce that. So
And that's
thank
fair.
you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Do we have a motion which would include a plant operator and also with the county and Joint Power Water Board receiving the weekly reports and any issues or failures?
I will make a motion to approve item number 2 today on the public hearing stating with all the recommendations we just discussed.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I second.
Do we have any final discussion? All those please say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. So this will go, Mr. Van Dyke, in front of the county commissioners on the 15th. Thank you. Do we have any other business, Eric?
It's going to be
Yeah,
quick.
we
You're
need
like,
to
please,
today.
because I can see the time on the PowerPoint. It's 3 hours and 23 minutes. So this will be very quick, but I just wanted to let you know on Project Bison.
Oh,
if-
yeah.
I know everyone received the flyer in the mail, but they will be at your Planning and Zoning Commission meeting by Zoom on December. We do have other agenda items, but just so you know, they will be here with Frontier to present their project. They presented in front of the Board of County Commissioners, and I told them it was very important to reach out both to Granger. The facility is going out by Granger, that they need to meet with the town council there, and then also to reach out to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So look forward to that presentation, Madam Chair,
Oh, nice.
in December.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for
That's
doing
it.
that, because I would like to do, yeah. All right, hearing no other business, I think we can call this meeting